Hi, I'm Leon Lovelace, and this is Unstoppable Force. Now, I need your help. I need you to go to my PayPal link. I'm putting a link in the description box below. I'm putting on the screen here, so you guys go check it out. And you can donate to my show. So I can do this full time instead of just part time. But I got more of a fun news story for you guys from the Huffington Post. I don't like the title of this article, but the subject is about the new Black Panther movie is actually putting forth darker skin of black people, especially women. I'll start right here. It doesn't seem like it'd be a big deal, but it is, especially considering the uncomfortable relationship that we, black people, both here and abroad, even in the motherland, have with the insidious force known as colorism. Colorism is defined as the discrimination, bias, or prejudice leveled against folks with darker skin tones. That phenomenon usually occurs among folks of the same racial or ethnic background, even brown-skinned people who fall somewhere in the middle of the spectrum from light-skinned to dark-skinned are not spared from colorism. This is why Black Panther is sort of an anomaly. Based on everything we know about colorism, what affects and what exactly feeds into it, we wouldn't expect that many, or really any, dark-skinned and brown-skinned actresses would appear in Black Panther. And yet there are. Here's why it matters. Black Panther goes out of its way to cast dark-skinned women in every single role that calls for a woman, including the love interest. Dark-skinned and brown-skinned black women are abundant in the movie. You can see it in the background characters, the promotional material, and the much talked about Dora Milaje, an elite team of female bodyguards that defer to our good King Ting T'Challa, played by Chadwick Boseman. Every single significant speaking role has been cast with a dark-skinned or brown-skinned actress. I'll skip down a little bit. Every single woman in T'Challa's life is either dark-skinned or brown-skinned. His sister, mama, bodyguards. I'm going to use this picture right here. It's a huge deal. And perhaps the biggest deal of all is Nyong'o, a dark-skinned woman playing T'Challa's love interest. I know many people in real life that have mothers, sisters, and friends with skin darker than 100% cocoa, who are the same hue themselves, yet wouldn't be caught dead getting romantically involved with a dark-skinned black woman. Some people proudly proclaim their affinity for red bones and disdain for dark meat. That kind of thinking, that abhorrence of dark-skinned women, is deeply entrenched in our culture. If you don't believe me, a dark-skinned black woman, consider what Matthew Knowles, a dark-skinned black man, recently had to say in the matter. Knowles, the father of singers Beyonce and Solange, says he was conditioned to only date white women or light-skinned black women who looked white. Colorism makes it so that loving dark-skinned black women is not seen as lucrative, beneficial, or valuable when it comes to amassing cultural, social, economic, or even political capital. This results in us getting denigrated, dogged out, and devalued at every turn. But this is an important movie because most of the time, dark-skinned women usually aren't cast as, major characters and roles, and aren't usually, like the article's saying, they're not usually presented as being beautiful. And this movie, they're very likely going to be, especially since one's a love interest. So the love interest is always going to be someone portrayed as being beautiful. And it's a good way to start countering the narrative that just because someone's a dark-skinned person, that they're not beautiful, because that's just kind of, well, it's not just that it's racism, but it's also just a prejudice. It's a good way to divide people and say, well, you're inferior to this other group because your group's ugly and this group's beautiful. So that's one good way that the powerful are able to really hurt a group of people, is just divide them up and in this colorism way. So we really got to reject this, because this was actually rooted in slavery times, when all the dark-skinned people were just sent off to work in the fields, and all the light-skinned slaves were sent to work in the homes. So a lot of the dark-skinned slaves, they would have at least some sort of resentment for the lighter-skinned slaves because their lives are a little bit, at least a little bit easier because they weren't working out in the sun for 12, 14 hours every day, so on and so forth. And maybe less subjugated to brutal treatment too. But since that was just entrenched in society in those times for a long time, in a way it was just it's just absorbed into black culture after slavery's ended. But of course now it's time to kind of dismiss that and reject that notion that just because someone's dark skinned it means they're ugly, because that's just simply not the case. Because just because someone's light skinned doesn't automatically mean that they're attractive. And the most important thing is that beauty and attractiveness is just an eye of the beholder. It's all subjective. Just because someone thinks someone's beautiful doesn't make it a fact. Just because a whole lot of people think someone's attractive doesn't mean it's a fact. That just means that's what a lot of people's opinion is. So that's one big way that the black community could start uplifting each other, is starting to reject this notion of only light-skinned women are attractive and dark-skinned women are not, because that's just not the case. And it goes on a little bit more because they also talk about how with X-Men, Storm was always portrayed as a light-skinned black woman. The first one was Halle Berry. Then the second one was with Alexandra Shipp. I didn't watch X-Men Apocalypse, so I'm not sure, but yeah, that's a little bit of a problem when the establishment and a lot of these movie directors, these Hollywood elites, just want to put light-skinned women for certain roles or for leading roles or romantic interests, because they're just keeping up with the same stereotypes and the same biases and prejudices that have always been in our culture. And of course that's going to hurt at least one portion of the population. And I'm not a big movie guy, so I don't see as much of this problem with television, or at least in the movies section of our entertainment industry. But I watch more TV, and then a new show on CW just came out, and it's Black Lightning. It's about a black superhero, and he's a darker skinned guy, and the love interest is his ex-wife, and she's a dark skinned woman. So they're also breaking that barrier too of having only light-skinned black women be the love interest or being portrayed as attractive. So the CW is also doing a good job with trying to get rid of that notion too. But it's a brand new show, so maybe that might have been another issue, is that they haven't been doing this over the last 3 or 4 years, something like that, or even the last 2 years. But if you guys haven't checked out that new show Black Lightning, check it out on CWTV.com, because I watch it. It's pretty good. And hopefully going forward, we'll be able to see more movies and even more TV shows where there's actually a dark-skinned people, not just black people, but dark-skinned brown people being love interests and leading roles for important characters for TV shows, because not everybody's light-skinned. So for people that are dark-skinned, they shouldn't automatically be pushed back to the side or pushed off as being just a background character. Because they have to be, because for an accurate portrayal of America, people have to be portrayed as being the love interest or the main character too.